Well, this is an awesome day on Planetary Health First, Mars Next. We have Amy, who's an amazing author, and this is her title, her book, Going Menopausal. And can you just share a little bit about yourself before we get going? I mean, my gosh, you're a TED talker. You've been on Joe Rogan. You have your work is amazing, creative, and so scientific and so empowering to women, including my wife and all women who want to know the real skinny on menopause and perimenopause and how to cope and deal with it. So before we get going, this is a great time. Love to hear you share a little bit about yourself.
I will. First, I want to tell you what the subtitle of the book is. It is, hopefully you can see this, what you and your doctor need to know about the real science of menopause and perimenopause. And, what you're saying about women being empowered, there's that old line, knowledge is power, and it really is. And so we are not getting evidence-based medical care, and I allow women to go to the doctor with the science. Now, the way this evolved is that I was coached for many years. I wrote a science-based syndicated advice column, and I was just desperate for it to be accurate, to have the science be that I would critique it properly and give people truly evidence-based advice. And so in 2007, after studying stats and all of this on my own about methodology, and you can do that if you are motivated, I met Sandra Greenland, who's one of the top epidemiologists and biostatisticians in the world. And he saw how absolutely desperate I was to be accurate and to be appropriately scientifically skeptical. And I was, but I wanted to have advanced training in this. And he's so generous. He spent since 2007 coaching me informally in how to read and critically evaluate research, how to appraise it, how not to be overly confident about findings. And so he also did something very important, which is that along the way, he kept sending me all of these articles and journal articles about this egregious fraud and error and abuse in medicine, where it would be discovered that a treatment didn't work and made people sick. And doctors would continue giving it to patients for decades or more. And I have to say, when I first started my book, I was angry at my gynecologist for not knowing what he didn't know, which is anything about menopause or perimenopause. And that's because the big secret of gynecology departments is that almost none of the gynecologists have any training or education beyond like a couple pages in a textbook or a lecture in med school on menopause and perimenopause. They are treating menopausal and perimenopausal women, and this is a violation of medical ethics. They should say, I don't know this at all. No training, no education. I'm actually a baby doctor. Most are.
So if I'm hearing this and I'm interrupting you, they probably have more nutrition training than they do on perimenopause.
No, that's the other area. And you really need to do what I've done and what my friends Nina Teichholz and Gary Taubes have done. We are all extreme nerds. Gary is a good friend of Sander's, and Sandra deeply respects him. And actually, Sandra endorsed my book and said I did a great job, which was like, you want to please your dad. My science dad thought I did a good job. And so, you need an outsider who is a nerd to do this deep dive. Doctors who write books, they just write basically on what they know from their clinical practice, treating patients, and a bit of maybe they read some research. But doctors are not trained in how to read research in medical school. This is one of the big myths of medicine, that they make evidence-based decisions about your care. They can't, because they can't read the research and interpret it the way I do, with rigor. They have not an idea. They don't have time to read it. So I forget where I was going with this. So all the doctors, they're baby doctors, they're reproductive health specialists. They treat you for, different disorders of, menstrual disorders, but they know nothing, and they don't refer you because there's no one there, except this is so terrible. There are now these certified menopause experts, certified by the Menopause Society, one of the big medical practice organizations, in fact, the big one in this field. There's the American College of Obstetricians, Gynecologists, but this is NAMS. This is the Menopause Society, is the big one. They go through a course, a training. They're declared experts. And this is 45 hours of continuing medical ed for women's health in general, 15 hours of which need to be on menopause and perimenopause. And then they take a multiple choice 100-question exam. And if they pass, ooh, they're an expert. I know they're not experts because when I talk to these doctors, I can, like a lie detector, I can fact check their entire conversation and say, oh no, actually transdermal estrogen, the skin applied estrogen, doesn't do that. That's just oral because it goes to the liver first while transdermal goes to the skin. And, you need a much bigger dose of oral, which is why there are all these problems with it. You can sometimes have heart attacks. Sorry, I'm being a little bit too loose on that, but it is a dose. The heart attacks thing is a little wrong. I was just sort of smushing stuff together to be clear on that. But so you're being treated by people who basically treat you off a list. They can't diagnose you. They don't know what the different symptoms of perimenopause are, especially at the start. So women are left with that scary mystery. Everything's going wrong with them in the symptomatic women. And this is just the biggest betrayal of patients in our medical system.
I mean, what I gathered when reading your book, it can be a long journey. It's such a personalized experience for women, and I'm not a woman, but reading it.
I perceive that. I'm with my great science methodology. Yes.
But it can be, how many years can this exist? Perimenopause to menopause can be like 25. I mean, depending on the average range. I know I got the periods. If you got 12 sequential non-periods, like, tell me what happens.
12 months. Okay, 12 months without a period. I love how you're retrieving that from memory because I know that memory research a lot. Anyway, I saw that in progress. So perimenopause, people have different experiences. So I had horrific symptoms, and not all women do. Perhaps maybe 15% of women or 20 have the terrible, terrible symptoms I did, to the point where I started getting car sick in my mid 40s with a vengeance. I got car sick as a kid, and then it stopped in puberty. And I live in Venice, California. Santa Monica, California is like 2 miles away. And I couldn't go to the end of Santa Monica without throwing up in my shoes. I mean, this is how, and if I were driving, I love the people who would say, did you try Dramamine? I'm like, wow. I mean, I couldn't have thought of that. I mean, yeah, because I want to take out a church minivan of children, while drowsy at the wheel. Thank you. That's very helpful. So anyway, these doctors, with this 15 hours of training, I mean, that's not expertise. This is more of a betrayal of patients. You're telling them, okay, now we've got the experts. No, you don't. No, you don't. And the head of Kaiser Permanente, big HMO multi-state nonprofit that I go to at the big West LA Kaiser, told me about a month and a half ago, because my great gynecologist is gone. He's out. Hopefully he'll come back in September because he's, wonderful, and not like the 10 gynecologists who denied me care when I know the science and they don't. Anyway, she tells me I should taper off estrogen at 60, that it causes breast cancer and Alzheimer's and all of this stuff. Now, because I know the research so well, and I believed estrogen was Satan because I was in 2002 not close to menopause. I just sort of in passing heard about the Women's Health Initiative trial, which was an egregiously conducted and fraudulently announced trial. And I'll tell you why. But I thought, hearing this, oh my God, estrogen is Satan. I'm never taking it. Now, this is not a scientific position, and I check everything out. And you're writing a book on menopause and perimenopause. So
and that's the study with 80-some-year-old average.
Yes.
7. Okay.
Right. You did a good. I see you read. I get there. Like, now I'm seeing the memory. First chapter of the book. So what happened was women in their 70s were given estrogen. You would never give a woman that old. And also these women were sick. They were obese and had diabetes and all these diseases. If you give estrogen to a healthy, just menopausal woman, like after the 12 months that you correctly identified as without a period, that you are then in menopause, there's 95% chance that you will not have another period ever, that these women were harmed. Those women, healthy women, just menopausal. God, I'm screaming. Those women, if they do not have plaque build up in their arteries, can take estrogen perhaps throughout their lifetime with monitoring to make sure their health is good and that there aren't any problems. And the reason this is important is that estrogen does not just treat symptoms. it's been found to be protective of your brain, of your cardiovascular system, and your bones. And the bone finding is the strongest, but I see enough evidence for the other areas. It's just not declared in the Menopause Society practice bulletins yet, but bones are, and that's the reason they say, okay, now there is no stopping rule. We should decide on individual health. So this woman, head of gynecology, is telling me this advice, and the cancer and all of this was a finding due to the women being broken, and cancer doesn't double fast enough for them to actually declare that this is a bad, terrible methodology on their part. And so she's telling me this advice from 2002, discredited by 2004, and then subsequently with more and more research in years after that. And so even if she didn't read the science, she told me she did. Obviously, it is my opinion that this is a big red lie. I don't know that, but that's my opinion. And so 2017 and 2022 practice bulletins by the Menopause Society, these very clearly written, basically cliff notes for all the science. She could have read those. I mean, that's responsible. She's the head of gynecology, choosing the formulary for the pharmacy for menopausal and perimenopausal women. I was told that. I mean, and she is ignorant as a post and told me something harmful. And luckily, the difference between me and why it's so heartbreaking for me to see the things other women are going through and why I wrote this book is that I can avoid what's called iatrogenesis. That's medical care that's intended to help you that through ignorance of doctors harms you. And so that's what this was. And I, of course, am not going to taper off estrogen because I'm the expert in the science from this 8-year deep dive in a way a doctor can't be. So this is the kind of betrayal women are going through. And just to get back, because I don't know if I properly answered, it's a 3 to 10 year transition to menopause. That is perimenopause. Some women are very symptomatic, others are not. And what there's a hormonal profile that's different from menopause in terms of what's happening, what's deficient, that causes women to be symptomatic and sick and at risk of cancer that you would like doctors to know, but they don't.
It just seems like you think in today's world of advance with AI and technology, we would have this. And here you are, amazing writer, researchist, and you had to do this book. You shouldn't have had to do this.
Oh, no, this is what I say all the time. And let me just tell you, if you do not know the science, do not ask AI questions. It will lie to you, hallucinate. ChatGPT is basically, I found out, it told me this. I pulled it out of it. Programmed to be a sociopath just to keep you engaged, and it'll tell you wrong things and keep you hounding it. This keeps you on for longer. So you earn Sam Altman like another fraction of a cent. It's so horrible. And the other ones aren't as bad. But I found out, for example, I asked, I review science sometimes. Like I was looking up something and I just asked quickly, Grok or one of these about basically the lining of the stomach where people get ulcers. And it told me that something was millimeters thick. Well, no, it's microns thick. A micron is really, really small. Tiny, it's a bitsy. I think it might be like there may be 30 microns in a hair. I can't remember the exact number, but it's small. So a millimeter is, like a block long compared to a micron. So, and I caught that and I said, isn't this microns? Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry. But so and so that doesn't sound that consequential, but, many of the errors are. And so that's why you can't use AI, and that doctors actually need to know, because we have, things, we're systems. And so a patient comes in and has certain symptoms, they can indicate one disease or another, and you need to look at the collection, what's going on with them, what their labs say, their metabolic health and everything, to make a determination. And doctors do not have this transdisciplinary training. I basically, but I should say, I don't blame doctors. I can say if I were a doctor, I would do what I do, which is just nerd out and stay all night and read science. But normal people, they want to have lives and families and go on dates and stuff. And they don't just sit, poring over the scientific database. They want to go home. So you can't expect that of doctors. They have patients they see every 20 minutes at Kaiser. They have medical record keeping requirements. They don't have time to read the research. So the problem starts in medical institutions, medical schools. It is so morally bankrupt there are three big myths of our, sorry, I didn't even finish the sentence because I get so outraged. I cut myself off because I'm like apoplectic over the wrongs done to patients, not just women. So there are three big myths of our medical care. One is that doctors make decisions about your medical situation and how to treat you based in scientific evidence. The next is that doctors are trained in diagnostic reasoning. And this is the Dr. House kind of skill where you narrow down what is the nature of this disease, what is the underlying condition. And the reason this is important is that a headache could be, extreme stress at work, or it could be a brain tumor. Now, if we just treat the symptom, which doctors tend to do, which is awful, you miss the signal. So you're like shutting off the signal. Oh, my head is hurting so much. And the brain tumor gets to, hang around there for longer. And maybe you die of cancer instead of, going through treatment and being saved. And then the final one is that doctors are statistically illiterate. They cannot properly calculate what's your risk or benefit from treatment. And this is the thing you can teach. This guy, Gerd Gerenzer, who is, this is his passion of correct assessment of risk. He's a psychologist. He can teach 90-minute workshop, and most of the doctors really get it. And I'm able to do this. I'm not a math genius, but they are not able to do that. So they'll cheat off the pharmaceutical reps handouts where they use this overblown statement of risk called relative risk that was never meant to be used on patients. I got that for when I need statins or blood pressure. They put in my age, my weight on the computer. Horrible.
Exactly.
And so, but what this is relative risk is a comparison used by population health researchers to how did this group do relative to this group? This has nothing to do with individual risk. And the real amount of difference might be like one person died instead of, two. Sorry,
Yeah.
there are people shouting or something else. This is Venice, so we have crazy homeless people screaming. Politicians they elect here, So
I know you've tackled the menopause, right? But it seems like our healthcare, it's a huge, not just this, how did you when you decided to write this book, what was that process? I'd love to know. Where do you stop? I guess what I'm saying is where do you stop? It's just you've done one thing, and it's just in general.
I don't. I'm this person. I'm annoying and meddling. And if I talk to you on the phone, you're a customer service rep. If I can, I'll tell you some medical fact that will help you, about dietary science or something, if I can get it in, you seem amenable. And I hung up the other day with this guy. I was about to hang up, and I have an accounting system. If you complain when things are bad, well, you better then credit when things are right. So if somebody is at all helpful and intelligent and kind and extended themselves out and say, you make a difference for people and people don't tell you, and I really appreciate this. And I said to that guy, I'm going through a hard time because I had a serious eye surgery. He said, oh, I have an eye problem. And I said, if you don't mind, would you tell me what it is? And oh my God, his doctor, from what I hear, now I am not looking at his chart. I don't know him. You can't decide things this way, but it sounds like he was basically his glaucoma was at least partially physician caused through the drugs he was given and what sounds like poor treatment. I know this area because I got a corneal endothelium transplant. This is the plumber of the eye. This little one cell layer is in your arteries, also the endothelium. And I have a genetic disease, thanks mom, called Fuchs dystrophy, which I say as a bad word because I'm a bad person, vulgar. Anyway, so I learned the science in this field, and I got my doctor to change my prescription. They give every patient these drugs that have back preservatives. These begin eroding the corneal epithelium. That's the outer part, the part of your eye that is open to the air and the environment. They begin eroding it in a matter of days. So this man with horrible problems was being given this both in his steroid and in the antibiotic. And so there's an antibiotic that doesn't have this, that has broader spectrum protection than what they give. So I had my doctor give me a softer steroid. I don't know that he can get that, but I gave him questions to ask his doctor, so he can not have his eyes destroyed by the medication needlessly because the doctors don't know. They're siloed. They practice surgery. My surgeon seems to be a very good surgeon per what I hear from her and her colleagues. And she doesn't know the first thing about steroids, and it's terrible. And this is every area of medicine is like this. And so it's caused by the fault is on medical education and institutions. Medical education, nobody really knows that we aren't providing these things, so we just won't provide them. It's easier, it's cheaper. And then institutions need to backstop for the ignorance in their doctors. There's just rampant ignorance. And these doctors mean to treat you. They mean to help you. I mean, there's sociopaths in every profession. In plastic surgery, you make a lot of money. But my doctor at Kaiser is not getting a Ferrari for treating me. My gynecologist is such a good person. And I came to see that. First, I was angry because he didn't give me the right medication. But then, I looked at how he treated me with prudence, and he really listens and everything. And, now I tell everybody, because I can tell that he's a quality provider of the care. He is a specialist in maternity care. If you want to get your baby delivered, he's your guy. And no, you don't choose a gynecologist. Some women are not comfortable with a male, but this is like, I have to have a person with a vagina. Okay, if you have a brain tumor, do you need a doctor who had the same kind of brain tumor? You're not going to go to him. Oh, you have breast cancer. Screw you. I'm looking for somebody with a glioma.
Mm-hmm. So what do we, I see empowerment in this book. What is your hope? Obviously this is a labor of love. You obviously are wired doing this. You've written a lot of books, and I wish I could read them all. You got some really cool books.
Applied science and all.
Yeah, applied science. A lot of humor too. You have a nice, fascinating style. I think there could be a screenplay. It almost could be a Broadway hit.
I would like that. And, I have to say, I'm so, you get me so heated up with these questions. Are great questions that I'm reminded of the betrayal of women, that I keep not telling a straight story. And I wanted to tell you why I wrote this book. And that is because Kaiser refused me what I needed to get to be properly treated, healthily treated in perimenopause. What happens in perimenopause, unbeknownst to doctors, the reason women get sick is that estrogen is not just running out like sands in an hourglass. This is a different, hormonally different stage than menopause, where estrogen and progesterone, the second hormone of the menstrual cycle, its partner hormone, are both low. In perimenopause, your estrogen levels spike and dive. And then what happens is there are cycles that are anovulatory. So they seem like normal menstrual cycles, but the egg in the little sac does not rupture. It just, sits there. And the ruptured sac is important because that litter is what progesterone is made out of. Progesterone is like, I call it like the Valium of the body. It potentiates GABA so you can sleep. It keeps you mentally well, without which, I actually, had these inexplicable rages. That's part of the title of the book, that you have these inexplicable rages where you're ashamed. Who is this hateful, angry person you've become? You don't know why. You feel terrible. And then the other part of it was, so I fight to get oral micronized progesterone in the correct amount, and to have it covered by Kaiser. They give patients, at that point, it's still on their formulary, medroxyprogesterone acetate, the cheapo knockoff drug of progesterone that is damaging to the brain, damaging to the cardiovascular system, and can raise your risk of breast cancer because it binds with the wrong receptor in the breast. And so when I go to the doctor, because of Sandra's training, Sandra Greenland, the epidemiologist who coached me in reading science, I don't go to the doctor and say, I'm uncomfortable, what should I do? Because I had a hot flash here in Venice where it's cool, all year round. And I felt like I was in the Everglades, like from one moment to the next. And so reading the research, I knew what to ask for. And I had to fight to get it. So I fought 3 huge battles. Like there were a panel of doctors I had to present to, none of which had any expertise in this area at all, or were even gynecologists. And so finally I get the drug, I get the amount I need, 300 milligrams. That's what you need because you don't know your metabolism of progesterone, of steroid hormones. And that's what you need to keep your breasts and endometrium safe, because progesterone protects them. And I'll tell you how in the breast it's really cool. Progesterone, that second half of the menstrual cycle hormone, it causes generic cells in the breast to differentiate, to specialize, to become breast cells. So they're workers now with a job to do. And the generic cells are delinquents, and they can just double and redouble and turn into cancer. Whereas the worker cells, they got a job, they can't get off that track. And that's why it's so important. And, women who just have estrogen spiking, estrogen is proliferative. They have the problem of being left at risk, by doctors who don't mean to do that. And so, because when I do this, I'm from the Midwest, I'm a bit of a sap and an idiot, a naive idiot in some level. And so I fight and I say, okay, I've shown you all this science, to back this. And now will you give it to all your female patients? I'm like, no, just go away and take yours. And I can't do this. This is like, for me to do this, just go away and let all these women who don't know, not be informed. This is like watching women in a line walk into an open manhole cover and saying nothing. So I decided I'm going to write an op-ed for the newspaper, and then it gets longer. And I decided it's going to be a New York Times magazine piece, but I don't write like other people where you write, this like sophisticated, I respect scientists kind of way. I don't respect scientists. I respect work. And then if you're somebody whose work I respect, then I, cite you, and I'm not going to, be impressed because you're important. And so anyway, I write this and it gets, it's dry and not me. And I end up, it grows and it becomes this book, which took 8 years. I would never have done this book in any other subject. It was just that it was not moral to not do it. I can't bear. That's why I tell people be on the street. Do you know that Black women have, it's like much higher HDL and lower triglycerides as a baseline, and so they can have heart disease missed by their doctors who go by the standards of, where they tested large white men, neither which we are, and I mean, that's not my first opener, but people appreciate that. This is a population that has enormous metabolic health problems. I see them because I go to the eye place where it's a Black neighborhood. These beautiful little Black women, like they have diabetes, amputations. It kills me. And that's medicine being, not what we expect it to be and betraying us.
So what, I mean, are you hopeful at this? I mean, you've got this, I mean, I feel good. At least my wife is trying, like there's word of mouth with, these bioidenticals. Do you have any say on the bioidentical hormone treatment?
Oh my God, thank you for bringing this up. Okay. What's so horrible about doctors really not knowing anything, leaving patients undiagnosed, misdiagnosed, untreated. They just don't even know that symptoms are menopause, or they give women, this is horrible, antidepressants for hot flashes that leave your breasts and your endometrium, the uterine lining, unprotected. Progesterone is needed for that. So yeah, you help the hot flashes, but you possibly kill the woman. So, where was I in this? That women, there's more of a conversation, but you have women on Reddit advising each other, use this progesterone cream because, going to the doctor, the fights I've had as this really annoying and persistent person, I weaponize being annoying. I'm a mediator. I got a homeless woman's car back in her DMV tow fees and DMV paperwork waived in a day because I let a bureaucrat know, if you don't do this, I will be on you until the end of time. Then I'll go annoy your children, then go back and annoy your forebears. So she got her car back by 7. It's that persistence. It's unusual, that most women are not going to have, plus the scientific knowledge, plus they're not going to believe that they're going to believe their doctor knows something because look, it's all like shiny and expensive machines. Doesn't it seem that they would know something? Not that they're giving you outdated, horrible, unscientific care, And so the hormone cream, the progesterone cream they buy off Amazon, it does not penetrate the skin and be metabolized by the body at a sufficient degree to where your symptoms are alleviated. But most importantly, it does not protect you against breast and endometrial cancer. And women will say their symptoms are alleviated because the placebo effect is so strong in all of us. We're basically chimps. Look, I did something. I took an action. Okay. And I want to believe it worked because that tells me I'm smart and effective and wise and, behave prudently. And, placebo effect, sometimes the psychological effect is, the help that we needed. But if it's, will my cells double into cancer? You can be as happy and calm and resilient as possible emotionally, and you're still going to get that cancer.
So where are you are you hopeful? Are you still enraged? Where are you on the spectrum?
I'm enraged. I'm so enraged. I see this with my own care. I mean, I've been working for a week to tell a doctor how to properly prescribe testosterone for me in the correct dose, so it will not cause what is called virilization. See my nice chin? It doesn't have a goatee or anything. I don't have acne. I don't have, these other problematic things. Oh, you can get a clitoris. It's like a penis. Yeah, thanks. No, thanks. We'll pass. And so, the way to give a woman testosterone is to give cream in what are called oral syringes, which are not anything you take orally or inject. It's a measured dose of the very tiny amount a woman would need compared to a man. Because of the lack of science in our medical care, it's so horrible. The FDA has not approved testosterone for a woman. So it's off label and it's not covered. This is so awful. And because it's not covered and off label and doctors don't know anything about it, they prescribe at Kaiser androgel for men, for women. This is obscene. Men have 20 to 25% thicker skin, and they have more sebum, more oil. So the estrogen will be, the testosterone will be metabolized differently in a woman, and then the prescription I have is for an every 3 days dose. My God. Hello, virilization, my old friend, because when you have the spike and the dive, this is more likely to happen. And I have unique problems with steroid hormones in where my body just basically pitches out. I can take steroid hormones, my body binds with them and throws them all out. And I get very little of what I take. And so I need a higher dose and it needs to be consistent. All this stuff. I mean, and you have to write this in a way where it's understandable to them and it's not too long because then they won't read it. This should not be the way I spend my week, but that's the only way I'll get the correct dose. And it's a controlled substance because of all these guys shooting up to try to be like, like the size of
like Arnold.
Well, he might have. I don't know. I like him. I voted for him for governor, but then he wasn't connected enough to actually get anything done. He's a businessman. He's a good guy, I think, despite whatever affair or this and that. But generally speaking, it helps causes and stuff. Anyway, sorry, getting these tangents. But so this testosterone, by the way, I did not put in the book. I put it in there, and I said, right now we don't have enough longitudinal research on safety. And that's where it was when I put that in the book, because I'm very, very conservative medically. I mean, this is for other women. It would kill me to have something wrong. My book was fact checked. I sent it to all these researchers and said, like, be mean to me, harsh on me, kick my ass, because I needed them to criticize everything, any language or anything that was a little off or not fair to doctors or anything. And so, at the point, the research on breast cancer wasn't finished. And so now we see that longitudinally over a long period of time, women do not get an increased risk of breast cancer from taking testosterone. And in fact, it seems protective. And I see the cardiovascular research is not there yet, but I don't see from the big going transdisciplinary, looking at animal studies and other studies, my guess is that it is cardiovascularly okay. Now that's a guess, but this is a risk I take for myself. And I have very good cardiometabolic metrics, very sort of almost extraordinary from eating this evidence-based diet and exercise I put in the book. And so I'm not at risk. So anyway, that's the stuff I look at.
Do you want to share a little more about that evidence-based diet? Are you doing like?
Oh, I would love to.
Yeah.
See, not all women will want to take hormones. Now, I think that this is ill-advised, and I was a person afraid of taking drugs. In general, you don't want to take any drug you don't need. There are side effects to every drug. Progesterone having the least really of any drug, less than aspirin. But still, if you have low blood pressure or liver ascites or other issues, you might not be able to take it. So anyway, the dietary things we can all do. And so diet and exercise. What I look for, because I'm an advice columnist from way back, so my advice can't just be, here's some advice that makes me look fabulous. Aren't I wise? It has to be doable. Will anyone do this, Amy? idiot. Will anyone keep doing this, Amy, idiot? And if the answer is no, shame on you. You just wasted someone's time reading your column. How dare you? So that's so offensive to me that I was always, looking at to make sure. And the book is the same. So we are lazy, hedonistic chimps, every one of us. I have an avatar like that with red hair, chimp, to like just make sure I stay, humbly chimp-like in my head. And so any kind of eating plan or exercise plan needs to be something that humans who are not saints can do. So in terms of eating, the myth that medicine goes by about what causes heart disease, this idea cholesterol causes it and dietary cholesterol, this is physiologically impossible and idiotic and not proven by evidence. This is why the American College of Cardiology in 2020, finally, after all these years of telling us to eat unhealthy things, an unhealthy, high-carb, low-fat diet, said, oh, oops, sorry, we were wrong. Saturated fat is not unhealthy. You can eat it, fatty steak and chocolate and avocados and butter. And so this is how I eat. This is a science-based way to eat a low carbohydrate, high fat, sufficient protein diet. And I'm 61. See my arms? Like, this is really, you get this from exercising, but only if you eat. I just eat in a way where I eat grease all day. I had chuck steak for breakfast, like really fatty. I love it. Mm-hmm. Helps my brain. And, and this is how you don't gain weight. I'm satiated. So that chuck steak will go to like 3.
I've been doing that recently, and I can tell you, I think the big thing is the mental health. You have a stable focus. I've been then less caffeine, so I'll stop there.
Exactly. Okay. So this is what's very important. The government tells you need 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Now, this is wrong. It's based on math error, from I think it was 1999 or something like that. I mean, really, this is our medicine from the government.
So wait, say that again.
So the government says, last I checked, I hope they've changed it, on an NIH page that I put in this book, and I have another one on osteoporosis. It's the same kind of expose that will be next. But they say you should eat.
Wait, what's your next book?
Osteoporosis.
Oh, wow. I love that, because that's, you have a good point about that, with that it's really not actually a disease, but it's really a risk factor, right?
Yes. This is the thing that I discovered from my deep dive into that research. And this actually became a book I had so much information that my editor said, okay, we can't have people needing a mule to get the book out of the bookstore. This is too long. And so my agent sold it as a second book. My then editor, Alexis Stevenson, brilliant, bought it. She's no longer at the company, but she is highly responsible for this book being what it is. You're never a lone genius. You have people saying like, okay, this book cannot be this long. Organize this, lady. Anyway, so back to this.
But your book needs to be on Hulu or Netflix as a docuseries. I mean, people, not enough people are getting this book to know. Sorry.
Thank you. Through no fault of the author, I will say that there has been not a single print article on my book. So it has been getting noticed by people reading it. And you see people posting, this is the greatest joy I have. They say, you helped me. My wife, this guy, he read the book to his wife because she was so sick in perimenopause. What a wonderful husband. And so she went and she got oral micronized progesterone. She's doing better. Their sex life is back. This is from actually she, in menopause taking estrogen. It helps your vagina be moist, to have all that be, functional like it was instead of atrophied, which happens to some women when estrogen goes away at menopause. This is why, this idea of, oh, I'm not going to take estrogen, it breaks my heart, because some women, can be fine without it, but others don't realize the ways that things can go off the rails, like having your urethra atrophying and your bladder and the muscles there where you're leaking, that leaking urine thing. You've been a woman who, held her pee all her life. And then all of a sudden, 50 or 60, you're like, oh my God, I just you sneeze and you wet your pants. Mm-hmm. Nothing on you. It's, you needed this idea that it's offensive to say menopause is an estrogen deficiency state. The first part of the book on perimenopause and progesterone is largely there because of the fierce fight of this brilliant endocrinologist, Geraldine Pryor, who fights to get progesterone tested, to have the actual hormonal profile of perimenopause, spiking, diving estrogen and no progesterone or weak progesterone for too few days, to have that on the map. And so she's a feminist and I'm a humanist. I'm for individual rights for all people. But she and Susan Love, who died, the breast cancer doctor, both found it offensive that this natural state for women would be called deficient. And let me tell you, I went into menopause. I'm smart and I used to have a memory, and I'm in this extreme nerd meetup group, and we count off, we really have homework, we debate 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, not like just 7,000 or pi or anything. As soon as I counted my number, I would forget what it was. I mean, this is like some kind of cognitive, terrible thing going on. I was terrified. And this, I realized, I think that this is due to my, I didn't take estrogen right away, and I didn't take enough. I needed to up my dose. And once I took more, this is not science. It's called anecdotal evidence, but my memory seems to not be like that anymore. I'm still not, a memory genius, what's it called? Photographic memory or anything, but I'm not, things don't slip out of my mind, like seconds after I speak them. And so you were asking about diet though. So very important. You need to get at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Sorry, those damn Europeans and their standards, but you can find converters. So the gram to kilogram converter to do it to pounds. And so if you're a woman and you weigh like maybe 135, 140, maybe you need something like, I'm guessing 74 grams of protein, and you will not get too much protein and be sick. This is this myth that it's, if you have healthy kidneys, you will not like overdose on protein. You're not going to be eating like some crazy weightlifter. You're going to be eating it within a realm of normal. If you eat 1.6, that's fine. And so you're not going to get 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. This is not going to cause you ill health. And in fact, protein is needed. If you don't eat sufficient protein, you will not have healthy bones. You will not have calcium manifest in your bones correctly. And by the way, that's another myth. The notion from big vitamin, people are all angry at big pharma, and then they take supplements up the wazoo, and they're not validated unless you use consumer lab like I do. They send them out for independent testing because it's a wild, wild west in Supplementville. So the idea that you need 1,500 milligrams of calcium is an obscene health harm to women. Taking calcium at all is a mistake. You can get, it's like a big dose. Even if you take 500 milligrams at a time, it can cause a heart attack in some women. This is not a common effect, but it can do that, especially for women who are challenged in that area. And really you need actually Walter Willett, who's a big meat hater at Harvard. He's a scientist. And then Mel Connor, Ancestral Health Research. He's an evolutionary scientist, and then some others. It seems that we need maybe 500 or 700 milligrams of calcium. And you get that just from eating, a normal diet, unless maybe you're eating one food all day, potatoes or something on some crazy fat diet. And so what you want to do is keep your inflammation low. So to eat foods that do not have starchy carbohydrates, because the cause of heart disease appears to be spiking and diving blood sugar, the necessity of insulin from your pancreas to bring that down. Eventually that response breaks, it gets tired out. You have what's called insulin resistance, and you have inflammation in your body. And these are the things that kill us. And if you eat this diet, saturated fat diet with protein, and you're not eating starchy carbs, you're not having that up and down of your blood sugar. And you can be in very, your best metabolic health this way. Now, if you have diseases or something, you consult your doctor. But basically, I am in the best health. I have these extraordinary stats. Just to tell anyone who knows, my triglycerides are 30. This is extraordinary. And so a healthy heart disease ratio, the way you determine it, if just as a person, you divide, is it HDL divided by, triglycerides, you have to look, they're converters, divided by HDL, or HDL divided by triglycerides. I'm not really quite recalling. See, memory. I didn't take enough. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, and then you see what your risk is. And so under 4 is good. Mine is 0.4, and the same thing with every metric. Blood pressure, 99/62. All of these things together, you need to look at yourself as a system. Blood pressure, blood sugar, inflammation, which you measure through C-reactive protein. It's called CRP, a very cheap test. And you want to see that all of these things are low, and this diet keeps them low. So it keeps you healthy throughout your life, and helps you. They're important parts of our body, like these, they're called organelles, teeny organs, mitochondria that potentiate our cells with energy, regulate energy, do much more. You need healthy mitochondria throughout your lifespan to have energy and be healthy. And so the partner to the eating is to do exercise in the most powerful and efficient way. Oh, and I just want to say about the doableness of the diet. I'm lazy. I don't cook, I heat, because I'm not really lazy. I write. And that, like, writing lasts, if I cook it and eat it, it's gone. This seems, a bad idea to like spend much time on this. So I only do things that are 2 steps: flip, steak in a pan, flip, salmon in the air fryer, flip.
How about sardines? You like sardines?
No, because, I used to eat them all the time. I changed to herring.
Too much mercury.
No,
Huh?
no. Those herring and sardines, they're these fish that do not have mercury. You can check, it's very important to check salmon, eat fatty fish, salmon, and then herring and herring and mackerel are the fish I eat, because I'm on a budget, because I lived on my savings for 8 years to do this book. This is why I'm a fiscal idiot, but it was just too important. So I feel like, oh, you're getting rich on the book. Like, let me just get solvent, and then I can work on, like earning a living again. Anyway, mackerel, $2.50 a can on Amazon for like chicken of the sea mackerel. I make this fish stew with the herring. Now, herring comes in these tins. It's fantastic. Brunswick smoked herring. It's very good. And so I have this in my purse or backpack with a napkin wrapped around it, like my grandma, and a fork. So if I'm hungry somewhere, I'm not going to buy something from a vending machine. I whip out my fish.
And nuts, you eat a bunch of nuts too,
I do
I
not
guess.
eat nuts. No, nuts are very high in omega-6 fatty acid, and you want to prioritize omega-3. We need omega-6, but we need to get the correct ancestral amount, more like 1-to-1 or 1-to-4 at most. We have like 20-to-1, and this is inflammatory. Now, there are all these things. Are seed oils killing us, or are they not? Here's the problem with seed oils. The research, they give you perfect, pasteurized, packaged seed oil in a little cup that's not rancid. And so in life, seed oils go very easily rancid and oxidize. And basically, they cause you to have these inflammatory particles in you that lead to metabolic unhealth. So I don't eat seed oils. And the healthiest fats are butter, pastured butter from pastured cows, and ghee, GHEE, which is clarified butter, and you get that from organic, pastured, whatever. It costs a little more, but that's important. And the ghee has this high smoke point, so you can sear meat beautifully, get this crust on it. Those are the things I eat. That's all I eat. And then I eat. Oh, I'm going to give you a big tip for your listeners if they want to be low inflammation. Very important for your health, for your heart, and your entire system. The eggs that say, oh, pastured cows, grass-fed. Well, that's all well and good. And then they take them back to the barn and they feed them corn and soy, and they are like eating, the inflammation level. It's like eating a tablespoon of canola oil or something like that. I forget the exact amount. So I now don't buy these Vital Farms eggs, which were so expensive. I thought my health, supermarket eggs are the worst. Those are not far behind. I get Chino Hills eggs at Whole Foods. They're like $8 instead. And we pay more here in California for everything for various stupid reasons. But so I'll pay for those because it's very important. They are not fed corn or soy. So they're low inflammation eggs. Those are Happy Hens. And then at one point I was thinking of ordering them from Michigan because you couldn't get them here. They'd always be sold out. It's horrible. And so those I eat: eggs, beef chuck, hamburger, and I really don't have money. So I eat the kind that's like dog food in a roll. It's better to eat that than to eat processed food or anything that's cheaper, actually. And I eat herring in a tin, the mackerel, salmon, which I get on sale at Amazon, but there's a salmon disease now, so I'm eating it less, eating more of the cheapo fish in the cans. And what else? Lamb chops, if they're on sale. And then is there anything? Butter, ghee, eggs. That's pretty much it. And people think, oh, well, that's sort of a limited diet. What I do is I avoid things that will cause me harm. And if I had more money, I would eat more, variety of food and everything. And very important, you need to eat, liver, but chicken liver, because otherwise you can get vitamin A overdose very easily. Not just eat the muscle meat of meat, you need to supplement it with organ meat, but not to eat that too many times a week, because you can get overdosed on iron. And you really need to get tested for all these areas and by a doctor who knows what they're doing, because they'll test you. One doctor tested me just for ferritin, which is one of the iron panel, and nothing else. And it's like, well, that's a meaningless number. And you'll see also in the book, where I put in different tests to see if you're metabolically healthy, whether you could take estrogen. And, your doctor needs to look at this, but doctors don't know what to test for or look for this. So you need to do this. You need to get this from your doctor, to get your doctor to partner with you. That's a big part of the book, to how to motivate your doctor, how to use the language and strategy to get them to partner with you. And I give you fail safe so they can't deny you care, like testing you can do. Log your own body temperature to show them, oh, look, I'm not making progesterone. It's legitimate. While the menstrual trackers, by the way, are inaccurate based on a non-existent 28-day.
So at this point, are there no good, like there's different lab companies, different, interfunctional, are there, sorry.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah. Sorry. You get me on the start. You ask such great questions, and you don't have to ask another one for like half an hour, because you've given me a question I'm passionate about. So yes, there are these companies where you can get lab tests, Ulta Labs and other things. Ulta, I used recently myself when I need to practice defensive patienting, I call it, know what my levels are, because I know the way the doctors will wrongly misinterpret things. So I need to just make things come out sometimes the way that they need them to come out, because they're ignorant. And I don't mean that in a demeaning way, but in a factual way. These doctors, most of the doctors I've had, except for the 10 gynecologists who denied me an appropriate dose of estrogen for my body that tosses most of it out. They mean well, they want to help you. They just don't know how, because they're not trained, and so, there's a lab, a nonprofit lab by wonderful Dave Feldman, he's a citizen scientist. He does all these tests. So he passes on the discounts. It's called ownyourlabs.com. They're really great people there. And so they don't have all the tests, but it's much, much cheaper.
So do they do it through LabCorp or Quest or?
I forget, because I ordered something and it wasn't the right test and I had to cancel it. But they do it through legit labs. Here's the gross thing. I'm an anti, too much government person. The government requires a doctor to sign off on labs. They don't even permit you to test your own labs to get this in some states. Disgusting. We can here in California, but a doctor has to sign off on the lab order. Like I'm an infant, and the doctor, he's not treating me.
Amy, I wish you could come back again. I mean, you just, it's just, my brain is spinning with delight. You are just an encyclopedia of knowledge. And so real quick, should I be eating canned sardines? And I just got it because I couldn't get the other ones.
No, get herring, give those to the kitty. I don't
what's wrong with sardines?
Sardines are extremely inflammatory. They have extraordinarily high omega-6. And the great heartbreak of my adult life recently was that chicken thighs are also extremely inflammatory. And this is why with a high omega-6, I would eat a 9-ounce chicken thigh and be hungry afterward. And I could eat
So why don't we write a book together on what you need to be eating? Like a real quick format.
Oh, no, I have this in mind, and I actually need to put out that osteoporosis book, which will have more of this in there, but thank you. But I do want to give, because I've been rambling. You get me so heated up about each issue. I go off in this rambling tangent. I'm sorry for your viewers. Hopefully you can follow this. It's coherent in the book. This is Alexis Stevenson making it coherent, my beautiful, brilliant editor. But I want to just talk about exercise. And so the reason that my diet works eating this way, even though I restrict myself to things that will not make me unhealthy, and I'll do things like, to not be a horrible pain in the ass, go to someone's house and they're serving pasta and say, oh, can you make me scrambled eggs? I mean, I'm not a complete jerk. So I eat beforehand and I'll just push salad around or something, I expect this. I want to be there for the social event, and so my diet's delicious. and I'm satiated all day, and I don't have mental health highs and lows because I'm even keel. My blood sugar's not spiking and diving. And so the same doability I applied to exercise. So the worst thing is joining a gym and then you don't go. I mean, you have to like strap on Lululemon and you forgot to wash your thing and like this and that. And then you have to drive there and you didn't get gas and you're tired. And by the time you're going to go, you don't go. And then because you didn't go, you keep not going. And then you're just every month feeling bad about the membership fee. So, this is not doable by mere mortals. And I'm poor from writing this book. So I can't join anything, except maybe, who knows, like a group looking at birds in the trees, what costs nothing. I have in my living room over there, this tiny weight graveyard. The way to be healthy throughout your lifespan with minimal effort is to do slow speed weight training. And what this is left up to muscle failure. You do weightlifting with weights that are heavy for you, heavy enough that you can only do about 10 reps. And within that, when you start to squirm a little, that's when you stop. This is muscle failure, when you can no longer lift another one with good form. And what this does, this creates the tension your muscles need to be strong and resilient and healthy. This whole thing about bone mineral density for bones, what you do for muscle, you do for bones. And that's not the thing that matters. What matters is strength and quality. And the weight work like this does that. It helps create or maintain strong, resilient bone. So you're not going to drop and fracture with brittle bones. And it's very, very important to do this work, especially in perimenopause, which may be the last chance women have to build some muscle and bone.
How about some pull-ups?
Well, you could do those. I don't do them because I live in an old house and I can't screw in so much as a picture frame. I would
for your safety, you don't want it to break.
Right. And my physicist friend fixes my lamps and the shade. But I haven't. I try not to abuse him with too much handyman work. And so the thing is, a great guy to look at this is Drew Baye, B-A-Y-E. He is the only non-scientist I quote in the book. He goes by science. He emphasizes safety. He's fantastic, great character. He has a website. You can follow him on Twitter and you see him doing this. I do 5 seconds up with the weights very slowly. And this is good because I'm trying to do this really so you see how slow it is. It's very boring. You can do it with a metronome at first because it seems like forever. Then
it's like Bruce Lee, what Bruce Lee was doing with his whatever, the Kung Fu master without weights and stuff.
I have to plead ignorance. I like to plead. I watched a few movies, but yeah,
right.
I don't know. But so you do this and I do just 1 rep of these a day. You don't have to work out for hours. So I do my muscles. Like, this is amazing. I was never strong. I can open jars. I don't need a male to do that. I'm amazing. The strength I have.
And then what about cardio?
Oh, so what I do, it's, you can do the weight work and be metabolically and cardiovascularly. Well, these are sort of the same thing, but have your heart, your metabolism, and your bones and muscles be healthy. This is vitally important. A lot of women don't have the energy in menopause. They must keep moving. You just move. Your feelings are not the boss of you, as I say in Unfuckology. So you may not want to move. Okay, pick up your foot, put it there. Pick up the other foot, put it there. And this is how you do things that you need to do and be disciplined. You just tell your body, okay, no getting out of this, lazy. With this, I think I forgot the question, but I do 16 minutes a week just of this on the cardio. So, this I do, I'm sedentary. Any day you spend sedentary is a day you are inflamed. So the weight work counts for something, but I run for 20 minutes. Now, this also has to be doable. So, I run, it's very important to get first morning light in your retinas. This helps foster circadian rhythm and mental health. And so I do that. I'm on my porch and go jog in place. I also jog in front of the TV because let's make this enjoyable. That's
cool. That's your treadmill. I like that.
And I'll run. Venice is beautiful. I also like to run after dark when no one's in the streets through the alleys of Venice and everything. Yeah. But what I do on my porch to make myself run, oh my God, I'm a Motown girl. I have a station on my Pandora. And this, if you want to get the good one, not the Marvin Gaye, Tammy Terrell, but you say, Diana Ross, I want to station Diana Ross, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, gets you all the ladies. And then you get Aretha Franklin, who actually was not Motown. And so I have this great kick-ass dance station. I am not a dancer, but I dance on my porch, like, with I'm into it. And then, I'll see people across the street here. My book, Good Manners for Nice People Who Sometimes Say Fuck, was about spreading the nice in the society where we're all transient and everybody's strangers. So I just yell at people across the street, hey, have a beautiful day. Love your dress, whatever. And so this is this happy experience, both from the social interaction that I engage in.
Yeah.
People are not used to usually like, hey, screw you, fat ass, move your car, whatever, it's like sending out nice into the world. This makes me feel so good. The bouncy, I come in, I'm happy. This is how you get to do this. And then, so I don't let myself not do it. If I haven't done it, I will, people say, oh, you can't exercise late at night. It doesn't seem to affect me the way some are said to be affected. I will run at 1 o'clock in the morning in front of the TV. Because like, hey, Alkon, lazy, did not do your quota today. And doing habits, repeating them, is the way you are disciplined. You create discipline by being disciplined. We don't have a not do mechanism in us. We have a do. So you need to do and not be, someone who's like, I'm not going to do this. That's not really applying in this exercise stance, but where you just repeat behavior that's healthy and you don't let yourself out of it. I used to do, before I started doing this with weights, just 10 push-ups when I made coffee. And unless I were having a migraine, which I got in perimenopause, another gift of my horrible symptomatic state, I did not get out of this. You feel bad. You drank the wrong kind of wine. You got to hang. Too bad. Push up. Get those arms moving. And this is really good. And you feel good about yourself from that. It's like a small win. You've accomplished this task that you mean to do. So all of this is very important. I do that cardio. And here's one other thing. God, the egregious unhealth in our medical care. Now, this is counterintuitive, and believe me, this is like my friend Gary Taubes, who wrote Good Calories, Bad Calories, and really helped launch, along with my other friends, the EADS, Dr. Eads, the low carb movement in the US in a broad population. He knew the science, but he would eat bacon and eggs and think like, this is going to kill, I'm going to have a heart attack by 9, like that. So it turns out what my doctor told me, I had a horrible pain in my knee in perimenopause. This, I think, was related to inflammatory estrogen spiking and no progesterone in perimenopause. But he said to me, if this continues to hurt, you need to not run anymore. I would run 3 times a week, 7 miles a night. I loved it late at night.
Wow. 7 miles at night.
I love music, also Motown type stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so he tells me, stay off that knee. I mean, entirely the wrong advice. And if it doesn't stop, I'm going to give you laparoscopic knee surgery. Okay, well, that was discredited in 2002. I think Nelda P. Ray, 2002, they gave people sham knee surgery and real knee surgery, this laparoscopic stuff, which causes you need physical therapy and all this stuff, costs you money, you're laid up, all of this, and they had no difference in pain relief. And people like me who are midlife people with wear and tear injuries, if you have one leg shorter than the other, this is a different situation. And so I read this research out of England. It's very good that if you actually put gravity and weight on your joints, that you will be able to, basically come back, not have the symptoms of osteoarthritis. So I do this. It's jumping, and this is going to be the next book. I'm feeling like I'm a moron. I read the science, though. Okay, I'm going to just do it because the science is right. Oh my God, I don't have any knee pain. I could run a marathon. I don't have knee pain anymore. And it's amazing. Part of this is not being in perimenopause and taking progesterone, but it wasn't just that. I had this beyond that point, and so, I really, all of the science that they don't go by is what we deserve. That, and the medical institutions that have not backstopped the ignorance of their doctors with experts, like in the eye surgery area, they need to provide experts in steroids and it was called the HPG axis. I'm the brain. It's your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. So they don't overdose people on steroids. I mean, it's really terrible, really, really terrible. And all of this, every area of your medical care. What I do is I look at friends' medical tests and tell them what the real deal is and why they shouldn't take statins.
I was going to ask about statins. So I don't do that because it only does 2 days longer of your lifespan. Doesn't
It's
do
something
anything.
like that. And they are so, worse yet, they are destructive to your mental health, to your brain. They destroy the mevalonate pathway. You lose coenzyme Q10, which is vitally important. And I'm looking at, because I talk to everyone, I'm friends with everyone. The guy who collects the bottles for the bar over there, he's my friend. I love him. He ended up, everyone does this at some point, showing me his medical stats. And I see that he is on a statin, which is horrible. And that they're not telling him to take CoQ10.
Yeah.
This is how is a doctor doing this? Is so egregious. I mean, it's like they're Grey's Anatomy doctors, but not as good looking, and they have a medical degree. I mean, like a license. They shouldn't. Some doctor. Oh, get this. I'm metabolically so healthy with like every stat, low insulin, low everything. LPA. I won't even explain what that means. But so bad is 50. Like healthy is under 30. Mine's 10. Every possible stat you could have, my metabolic health is stellar. And some guy looks at my LDL level and goes by the mistaken, unscientific notion that LDL number matters. First of all, it's an estimate. It's a calculation, and it's extremely wrong. They use the Friedenwald equation for everybody, but if you eat a low carb or carnivore diet, you need to have the uranium equation, which I won't get into. But so it's already like a bad calculation. And the thing is, what matters is not the number of my LDL particles, but what kind of particles I have. And they are pattern A. I got a useless and expensive, needless test, really to defend against doctors, for particle size. And this tells you, are your LDL particles large and fluffy, like they bounce around like little clouds, happy clouds? Okay, this is a little bit over doing the literary license there, or are they small and dense and can slip into lesions in your arteries and become this, like there's plaque buildup, and the plaque can break off, unstable plaque, and then a blood clot forms. And then kaput, you are, if your blood vessel is blocked to your heart, or, to your arteries blocked to your heart or brain, you have a heart attack or stroke. Okay, no thanks. No, I'll pass. And so this is what's important. That's pattern B, the unhealthy pattern B. And, they don't look at this. Oh, I started to say something too. I know when they tested my pattern, my LDL, to have my HDL particles tested too. So healthy, HDL being the janitor of the whole lipid game, taking away the particles that are, the LDL, carrying them off, metabolizing, helping you metabolize these. So good is 6,000. Mine's 12,000. All my stats are like that, and so this doctor, seeing just my LDL number, has never met me, has never treated me, has never spoken to me. So you need something called informed consent to prescribe a patient a drug. They need to understand what it is, why it's being prescribed, and then they need to consent. This guy just sticks at my chart, and then my primary care doctor, asks why I'm not taking a statin. I think I shouted sort of, because it has no benefit for all-cause mortality for women of any kind, and because I'm metabolically extraordinary, something like that.
It's like the Bill of Rights, your Constitution read.
Well, so this guy violated California law and medical ethics. What he decided was, okay, you have normal liver enzymes, and you normal thyroid, and so it must be your high LDL must mean you have terrible heart disease risk. Not looking at any of the other systemic things that matter for, like, I'm a whole person, not a
so are you saying flat out, like, for women, there's no increase?
These are so damaging. They cause the problem they're supposed to create. There's a wonderful woman to look at this. Her name is Marion Holman, Marion Holman, Holman. And if you follow me on Twitter, Amy Alkon, my name just stuck together, you'll see I retweet her a lot and post under her post. She's a saint. She's done this work like I do, but in that area, and posts it over and over, answering all these questions, explaining the destruction. And what you need to do, they need to tell people to have medicate with lifestyle. Eat the way I'm talking about eating, because carbohydrates provoke the insulin secretion that puts on fat and causes inflammation, metabolic ill health. Yeah. So you can say, oh, this one said to eat the Mediterranean diet, and this one said that. These are observational studies. Nutrition research is a crap fest of science. They ask people, did you eat a donut? What did you eat last month? I can't tell you what I ate yesterday. People lie, says Dr. House. He's right. And so this is why this research is worthless. So I reverse engineer from the cells. I look at what's called bioengineering research. What happens physiologically when you do this, when you put this substance in our cell, what's the desired reaction? Okay, what do we do to get to that? And that is eating a low carbohydrate, it's like, relatively high fat, sufficient protein diet. And if you want to lose weight and be very healthy, you stay in what's called ketosis. And this is eating generally under 30 grams of carbs. I don't even eat that much because I use fatty, heavy whipping cream for milk. Because it's fatty, it doesn't have the carbohydrates milk does, which is like 12 grams a cup. This keeps you from having blood sugar rise, and you're burning fat instead of glucose. So what happens is your body converts it to glucose. The fat, instead of, you don't have the spikes, but you're not having the inflammation you would. And so this is why I'm the weight I am. I'm really a kind of a pig. I ate this morning like beef chuck. It used to be like, oh, is that 4 ounces? I probably ate like 9 ounces because, like, yum, it's so good. And
Amy, I think you've been the best guest I've ever had.
Shut up now. I probably should. But please read my book. And if you want to subscribe, I have a Substack that'll be out shortly with all this kind of stuff. Oh, Going Menopausal. I have to read what you and your doctor need to know about the real science of menopause and perimenopause, forward by Dr. Robert Lufkin. I was doctor approved. He's a science-based guy. So yeah. And so subscribers at amyalkon.net, and please buy my book and review it on Amazon. It's $9.99. If you want the Kindle, you need to save money, but the beautiful copy, I did the interior design largely. Like I had them do, this. Oh, sorry. Now it's blurring. Oops. Here. That's not very good. Anyway, he better. Thank you. Going Menopausal, and please post a review. I need them. And if you can, write an article about it or whatever, I really would be so happy. And tell me your stories of how you take this to the doctor. And also, I'm going to help people. If people have questions or their doctor is giving them a hard time, I sort of proactively answer this in the book. But I'm not, obviously I'm a financial moron for living on my savings for 8 years writing this. So, I'm really excited to answer questions from people. And I also do medical consulting for people, like where I look at their thing, but I have to call myself like a medical coach or some stuff. But believe me, I wish I have one doctor who's evidence-based.
So could you be a medical coach for my wife for one consult, maybe?
I would love to. I'm so passionate about this.
I can tell. I cannot believe I've never had a guest that emailed me like you did with the amount of information.
For your
and
wife.
She was then going to the doctor and saying, I need it at this level. So,
This is so important. The doctors here. Oh, one last message I have to get across. Doctors in America will give you 100 or 200 milligrams of oral micronized progesterone for no reason whatsoever. This is not based on them testing it and saying, oh, this is better than this amount. It's just clinical habit. This is horrible. They give 300 milligrams since 1980 in France. You can take 700 or 1200. They could use it for anesthesia. You'll read it is when you read about side effects, like in the FDA sheet, it's because they confuse the medroxyprogesterone acetate with progesterone. They put in the side effects for that. Every area of a medical care is just, you can't believe this stuff, and so you need 300 milligrams because you don't know how you metabolize steroid hormones. So you make sure your endometrium and breasts are protected. Oh my God, here's another one. I'm walking the street. Again, I talk to everyone. These people, they come into my dress. I'm 61, and damn it if I'm going to be invisibilized as an older woman. So I go out, I wear evening dresses everywhere, these coffee table sized plastic earrings that were $2 on Shine. Poor person, but stylish poor person. I talk to them. She tells me her doctor just prescribed her estrogen, and the doctor's going to prescribe her progesterone next month. I think my head probably flew off my body. I was so angry. And I was like, okay, there's one thing that this is it and everything, And so, and by the way, here's what a dummy I am. I tell people, look, if you can't afford my book, you can steal it, but please try not to, because I really need to earn back my advance and not be homeless. But you get a library. I want women, tell women, if you read my book, and other women, are not readers, they're not stupid. People just don't read like they used to. There are highly intelligent people who read like blog posts, but won't read a book. Tell them what's in it. Please, 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 please get the information out. Talk about it. Talk about how unscientific our medical care is. And the reason chapter 2 in my book exists is that we don't want to believe this. This is so unbelievable. All this stuff I talk about, how doctors don't know anything. Like, we don't want to believe it, even if we see evidence, because it's too horrible. As my friend Katie did, who's a TV writer, said, she had read my work for years because her husband was my copy editor, and she knows the scientific rigor and everything. She said, I don't want to believe this, even though I know you're right, because if I believe this is terrible, I can't trust my doctor. And that is the case. Better to know it. So.
Well, Amy, this has been so great having you on. Love what you're doing. And I feel like there's so many more things to do now with all this knowledge. So you really are an expert. And this book is so important. Again,
going menopausal, what you and your doctor need to know about the real science of menopause and perimenopause. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm sorry I rambled. It's just because Michael just asked me these questions that set me on fire. And I think I forgot to answer that. So I'm sorry about that. But I hope you understand it comes from a good place, that I just have so much information I want to get to you that I just sort of throw it all out like confetti.
All right. And you can get this book on Amazon, right?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, indie bookstores. Oh, and here's another thing. I used to produce commercials right out of college, internationally. I cast Eartha Kitt for a Hardee's Fish Sticks voiceover. So I'm really good at casting. And I cast Carrington McDuffie 2 books ago as the voiceover for my book. She's so excellent. Just great to listen to her. She's really smart and reads things in a way that'll communicate. So get my audiobook if you're not a reader, listen to it in your car, then give it to people, loan it to them. Please put the information out so people who don't read can get it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you for having me.